tell you a little bit more about its story. Now, while everything about the Passport is new, from the inside to the outside, from the hardware to the software that powers it, today I want to focus on just 5 things that we know that mobile pros will love. A large square touch display for better viewing and reading. A touch-enabled keyboard for more accurate and more precise control. Our 10.3 software update, our largest and most comprehensive software update to date. A new personal assistant. It's a completely new kind of virtual assistant, actually, because it's built for work. And an incredible new audio experience. Let's start with the screen. Now, over the last few weeks, we've seen screens get a little bit bigger, a little bit brighter, and a little bit sharper. But no display has tried to fundamentally improve the way that people experience content, like reading and writing email, editing documents, navigating their phone, or browsing the web. Today, professionals are doing their best to work on narrow smartphones and often leave many of these types of tasks for their PCs or desktop computers. But Passport is all about working wide. It's a new way of working on a smartphone, and that's in large part thanks to the large square touch display. The Blackberry Passport screen is 1440 by 1440 pixels. It's incredibly sharp. It's just beautiful. It packs in 453 dots per inch. And it's made with Gorilla Glass for added strength. So it's really strong. The large square screen provides a near optimal text line length for consuming written content. Now let me tell you more about this. To provide the most comfortable viewing experience for readers, the print industry standard is to target about 66 characters per line. This is also what you find most e-readers targeting. Now, if you look at the narrow competition, the iPhone 6 displays just 33 characters per line, while the Galaxy S5, it only displays about 29 characters per line. The Passport, on the other hand, is much closer to this print standard. It shows 60 characters per line. What this means is that it gives the viewer a much improved viewing experience for consuming content, particularly written content, compared to the narrow competition. It really comes to life when doing things like editing a document or working with a spreadsheet on your mobile device. So let's go take a look exactly what those things look like on Passport. So here I am in the BlackBerry Hub on my Passport. I'm going to pull up an email from one of my colleagues with a memo attached to it. She's asked me to take a look, and maybe I'm on the road. Maybe I'm not at the office. Again, today, a lot of mobile pros would wait till they get back to their desk to take this action. But with the Passport, I can just open it up right here in Word to Go, a built-in piece of software. Right away, you see how the content fills the screen from left to right. I can easily view the content, and I can navigate through the entire document in just a couple of swipes. It's incredibly simple and really beautiful. Now, if I want to edit this document, I can just touch on the screen to bring up the cursor. And when I do, you see I can start editing right away. The entire screen real estate is preserved for interacting with this content. Nothing is blocked out by an on-screen keyboard. That's one of the benefits of having both a large touch display plus the keyboard. Now let's look at the same memo on a narrow device, like the iPhone 6. I'm going to open it up here in Pages, because I'm probably going to need to make some edits. Look at the difference. The first thing you'll notice is that I can't read the content, right? I haven't touched either of these phones in terms of zoom. If I want to be able to read this document, I have to zoom in quite considerably. I'm going to try to bring the characters to about the same size. Now watch what happens. I lose a good chunk of the content off the right-hand side of the screen. And in order to read this memo, I need to pan back and forth across the page as I go through the document. But where this problem really comes to light is when I want to make an edit, because I touch on the screen and it brings up the virtual keyboard. Now about a third of my screen is obscured by the virtual keyboard, so my ability to really interact with this content is compromised. Now I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, oh, well, you could just turn it into landscape mode and you'll get much better left-right viewing. Let's take a look. So it's true, when I do turn it into landscape, I'm able to see more content from left to right. Now, it still isn't fitting all on the page, but it's a little bit better. The challenge here, though, is that I'd say, about 2/3 of my screen is now obscured by the keyboard, so I'm only able to see a small sliver of my content. It's no surprise that when we talk to mobile professionals, they're frustrated editing documents on their smartphones today. The next thing we'll take a look at is working with a spreadsheet. So I'll go back to my Passport here, minimize Word to Go, and go back into the hub. I'm going to find an email here from my financial advisor and open it in Sheets to Go, another preloaded productivity app that you find on Passport. Look at how right away I can see the entire workbook at a glance. I can see my total net worth, my assets. I can see my liabilities as well. And if I flip over to the Assets tab, you can see that I'm able to view both the chart and the data that drives it. So I'm getting a really great content consumption experience. If I want to make an edit, let's say my cash on hand is really good this week, I can just delete this figure. It was really good this week. And the chart edits in real time as well. So you can see how it's much easier to work with something like a spreadsheet here when you're working wide. Let's look at the same experience on a narrow device like the Galaxy S5. So I'm going to go into my email, and I'm going to find the same message from Donnie. I'm going to open up the spreadsheet, and right away you see I get 2/3 of the content that I did on the Passport when I'm looking at the dashboard. If I flip over to the Assets tab, I can see the chart and a little bit of the data, but not both, right? Again, I'd be panning back and forth across the page or having to zoom in and out in order to interact with that content. That's the large touch-enabled screen on the Blackberry Passport. It's big, it's beautiful, and it's designed for a better viewing and consumption experience. Next, let's talk about the keyboard. Blackberry is regarded, and even imitated, for its physical QWERTY keyboard. Mobile professionals love the Blackberry keyboard for its speed, accuracy, and the way that it allows them to communicate with confidence. Now, with Passport, we wanted to reinvent the Blackberry keyboard by building on our strengths and heritage while doing something incredibly new, exciting, and innovative at the same time. That's why we've invented a new typing experience that blends the physical accuracy of QWERTY together with the flexibility and fluidity of touch. We call it the touch-enabled keyboard. This touch-enabled keyboard will allow mobile professionals to experience greater control, precision, and efficiency when they're navigating and typing on their smartphones. No other keyboard even comes close. In fact, no other device manufacturer could build a keyboard like we have. We tested the Blackberry keyboard and found that users were 4 times more accurate with 74% fewer typos. This is incredible. You're going to love this keyboard when you get your hands on it. The touch-enabled keyboard lets you perform many functions right on the keyboard, just like a trackpad. It's responsive to touch, so you can navigate through lists, flick to type, or slide your finger along the keyboard to move the cursor. Let's take a quick look at a few of the ways we can use the touch-enabled keyboard. So here I am in the hub, right? And what you'll see is that I've got a pretty long list here, right? And today, with an all-touch device, I'd be blocking out the content on the screen or maybe touching things by accident, right? Activating emails or messages that I don't mean to touch. But with the touch-enabled keyboard, I'm able to just move through this list quite quickly by swiping on the keypad. A big swipe moves the list quite quickly, but the keyboard's also sensitive enough to detect smaller motions for finer actions as well. Now, from navigation, let's turn to typing. I'm going to bring up an email here and show you how the touch-enabled keyboard allows me to type really fast and accurately. As I start to type on the keypad here, I get suggestions that appear above the physical keyboard in a 4th row. Think of it as a 4th row of virtual keys. Now, I don't have to take my thumbs off the keyboard and out of typing position in order to select these suggestions. All I need to do is swipe up on the keypad beneath the word I want. So I can compose an entire thought just by swiping up on the keypad. So I'm going to say, looking forward to seeing everyone again for dinner. If I want to access symbols and numbers, I just swipe down. And you'll see that each of the things on the touch screen are mapped to physical keys beneath the touch screen. So I can say 9 p.m. question mark. But what if I made a mistake? Swiping back across the keyboard from right to left allows me to delete one word at a time. So it's really easy. But a big frustration that we heard in talking to mobile professionals was around using the touchscreen for fine cursor control and text. It's too hard to select a word or a block of text using those little paddles that you have on other touch devices today. So the touch-enabled keyboard was designed to help with greater precision when using fine cursor control and selecting text. I double tap on the screen to bring up the cursor, and I can use the keyboard to drop it exactly where I want it. If I want to select a block of text, I hold Shift and once again use the keyboard to select. It's super easy, and it's going to change the way you interact with content on your phone. That's the touch-enabled keyboard on the Blackberry Passport. It offers an incredible step forward in how we interact with our smartphones, offering faster, more precise navigation and typing. Now, from hardware, I want to turn to software. Since launching the BlackBerry 10 operating system just a year and a half ago, we've released a number of updates and added hundreds of improvements and new features. But today, we're excited to share the next major milestone of the BlackBerry 10 operating system, 10.3. This major software update brings together a refreshed visual design along with hundreds of new features across virtually every aspect of the OS, many of which are designed to boost productivity. Now, I could spend hours talking about how 10.3 introduces new physical controls and new features to many of your favorite apps, and how the new UI is really optimized to squeeze every ounce of productivity out of every gesture and action that you take. But today, I want to focus on just a few of my favorite features that illustrate our commitment to building a productivity-focused OS. Let's start with something we call BlackBerry Assistant. BlackBerry Assistant is a new kind of virtual assistant, one that's built for work. It allows mobile professionals to interact with work content and use the productivity apps that they rely on each and every day. As we looked at other virtual assistants on the market, we saw two main problems that kept them from meeting the needs of our productivity-focused audience. First, assistants like Siri and Google aren't able to interact with all kinds of data, of work data, that is. Now, as you heard from John, we're really focused on enterprise and productivity-focused users, and we know that many of the users who will buy Passport will be coming from Android devices and iPhones. And as they bring those devices into the organization, chances are IT is going to use some kind of a secure container to help protect the corporate data that sits at rest on that device. Now, herein lies the challenge with Siri and Google Now. They aren't able to access work data sitting in a secure container. What does this mean? It means that if I want to take even the most basic action, like text John Chen or email Wayne Gretzky, Siri won't be able to find those contacts and won't be able to take that action. And that's because the data that's sitting in that work container is essentially invisible. But with BlackBerry Assistant, you're able to interact with both work and personal data. In fact, BlackBerry Assistant is so deeply integrated with productivity apps like Hub, Calendar, and Contacts, you're able to complete more sophisticated tasks that you just can't do on Siri and Google Now. Come on up to the Assistant booth upstairs and we'll show you. Second, mobile pros aren't always in a position where they can speak to a virtual assistant. Maybe they're in a meeting, or they're on a noisy train, or in a busy restaurant, or perhaps they just want to be more discreet. BlackBerry Assistant has been built to be more versatile. There are 3 ways to interact with it, making it more ideal in more situations. You can speak to it, and it'll respond in kind, but you can also type in commands to which BlackBerry Assistant will respond with only information on screen. And when you're in the car behind the wheel, BlackBerry Assistant knows that you're connected to Bluetooth and that you can't look at your device. And so it will interact with you completely